Hey, hi everyone. This is Sai from Let's Upgrade. So let's talk about how to get your certificate. It's very simple. You will see two links in the description. Number one is the place where you have to go and mark your attendance. Marking your attendance tells us, like, okay, you are a legit student who have attended this particular session. Link number two is your assignment. This is where your 90% of the priority is. You have to go and submit the assignment that is given to you in this particular session. Once you're done submitting that assignment, we will be evaluating that. We will send you an email. If you get the passing criteria, then only we will give you the certificate on a particular date that is mentioned again in the description. Please check these three things, and this is the way how you will get a certificate from Let's Upgrade. Number one, mark your attendance. Number two, just go ahead and upload your assignment. Check for the email that you have received it, yes or no. What is the feedback that you have received from your trainer? Number three, check on which date the certificates will be released. Thank you. Bye. All the best. Happy learning.
Imagine you are building a great website with beautiful components, and here we have the thumbnails as components in this green color boxes, which you can see right here in the main content area. This thumbnails looks good in the main content area, well balanced and also in perfect size. But if you move to the sidebar, it becomes very tiny while we are designing. So this is one of the case. There are also different cases where layout breaks, some of the layout collapses, some of the element becomes very tiny like this, and some of the cases things do not look great that way it should have been. If this all the things sounds familiar to you, today what I am going to show you how to fix all the problems one using the CSS feature without using JS, and some of the things that most of the developer do not know that even exist. Hey everyone, I am Pritesh Pradasi. I have been working as a full stack developer with GenAI for more than 8 years. I have been part of multiple production based websites for startups, some of the Fortune 500 companies, and everything in between. Today, let's learn about container queries. Let's move to the project setup for this particular website along with the basic starter code. Here we have a header, main content area, the sidebar, and footer. So let's move to the code part. So here in this particular we are using the VS Code as the code editor, and you can use any browser like Mozilla Firefox and all to test the code. All right, so here in this particular HTML file, this is the project structure. We have HTML and the CSS file, and they are linked together right here. And then we have a logo header. All right, then we have a default button right here. We have a navigation bar. This is for the hamburger menu, right? When the screen size becomes smaller, this becomes the hamburger menu. Then we have all the header for the menus. Then we have this is the main content area header. Then we have a paragraphs for it. Then here we have done the added the post thumbnail markup, which is identical here in the sidebar also. This is identical here, which is identical here in the sidebar. Same class name, same structure. Right here you can see the same class name and the same structure right here in the sidebar and also in the main content area. So that's the beauty of the component based design. You write once and you use it everywhere. Okay, then move to the style sheet. Okay, in the style sheet area, initially what we have done is we have done the content resetting. We have written the code for the body, and we have the basic media tags for everything. And the main thing that we will focus in this particular project is the thumbnail part. Okay, so here we have a very starter code written for the thumbnail. Okay, now this is what we are seeing the output of the thumbnail, which is not the desired output which we need for this particular page. All right, it is very big as compared to the viewport area and all stuff. So let's fix this particular way. Here in this particular web page, we have a issue with the thumbnail that is tagged one after the other, which is looking very odd. We need to keep everything aligned in a single row, one after the other, and each should be equally spaced. Okay, each thumbnail should be equally spaced. The sidebar looks good. It is looks crystal clear according to the container size. it's good. But here in this particular size, the main content area thumbnails are very larger in size, so we need to align this in a single line, one after the other, equally spaced. So to solve this particular issue, let's use one of the traditional way first. What is a traditional way? As simple as that, the media queries. Okay, what most developer would have been done in the first place, and it seems very logically correct, this approach to do. So let's start with that. For that, what would have done is add media, and let's create a width set to greater than 330 rem. Okay, so 30 rem right here, which is equal to, if let's say your default font size for the browser is 16 pixel, so if 30 rems equal to 320 pixel. Okay, so this is the 320. So min width we are setting it, it is a modern way of writing min width to 30 rem. Okay, so then post thumbnail is thumbnails. Okay, post thumbnails, and for that what we are going to do is, let's set the display type, let's set the display type to something around let's keep it, make it flex. Okay, display type, and let's give it a gap, the gutter space, what we call as gap between each of the child as 1 rem. Okay, the spacing between each of the element, child element, 1 rem. So here we do not want everything to be one after below the other, we need everything in a single row. That's why I have changed the display type to flex. Okay, I do not want everything one below the other like a block label thing. So again, for the thumbnail, okay, I want all of my thumbnail to be equally spaced. Okay, I know, so that's why let's, so that in a single row each thumbnail should be equally spaced and spread across the particular row. So that's why I have used the flex equal to 1. So now let's taste that, save it, and you can see this layout has fixed that. In the main content area it is looking good as our desired output. We have everything aligned in a single row, one after the other, and it's looking good. But here we have an issue with the sidebar. The sidebar, since that is here we have the width of the sidebar. Okay, the sidebar width is around 300 pixels, the width of the sidebar. So that's why what happened, instead of keep because since we have used the media queries, they are coming one after the other, but what we want is one below the other in the sidebar. So this is not looking good, since it is 300 pixel, it is becoming very smaller in size. Okay, but we have plenty of space below in the sidebar. So why we are facing this issue, why it is making looking this terrible issue, because of the use of the media queries. Okay, the core problem is the media queries. Why we have the issue with the media queries right here in this particular part? Because every time we use media queries, what we do is, the media queries always ask how wide is the browser window. The media queries ask how wide is the browser window. But in this particular case, what we really need to ask is how wide is this particular container that you are using. Okay, how wide is this particular container? This is what we need to ask. The content area here has plenty of space for the horizontal thumbnail in the main area, but in the sidebar it doesn't have plenty of space for the horizontal thumbnail. So here, by using the media queries, we cannot tell the differences, how they treat everything at the same time. Okay, so to fix this particular kind of issue, there can be multiple approach. Okay, one approach is, you need to define a CSS code right here for the main content area, another for the like you create a different class for the sidebar, two different class, one for the main and one for the like post thumbnail sidebar. Okay, what you can do is you can create post thumbnail dash sidebar dash main. Okay, so by doing this particular approach, okay, if you are taking this particular approach, what happens is we are doing we are not doing the code reusability part. Okay, we are not doing code reusability part, we are duplicating the code, and this is not helping. This is becoming code making the code much more bulkier and all stuff. The second approach is using the JavaScript. Okay, you can use the JavaScript to measure each container, like what is the size of the each container. You can add classes dynamically. So this is how it works as in JavaScript. Okay, so but here we are also adding one more override of one language, that is JavaScript. Okay, but everything right here, instead of doing this way, this can be done natively using CSS. We do not need JavaScript for solving this messy issue right here. In this particular two approach, one is the different classes, multiple classes, and JavaScript approach, what issue we are following, problem we are facing is they are hard to maintain, they add lot of bloat to the code base, and they violate the principle of the component reusability. The main starting point of this project was we create a single component, that is the page thumbnail, and reuse it for different sizes, screen size, or in different areas. So that issue is not solved right here. So we need a better solution to that, and that's where the container queries come to action. To solve this design issue, the first thing we need to do is let's delete the media queries right here. Okay, now I will show you step by step how the container queries work. So first we need to do is we need to tell the browser which elements are going to be the query containers. Okay, which elements we need to treat as the query containers, meaning which elements we want to measure. Okay, which element we want to measure, and accordingly we want to do all the placement of the stuff. So for that, what we need to do is, now let's define the containment context. For that, we need to do is content comma dot sidebar, sorry, then what we can do is the comma is removed. Okay, for that we need to set the container type to inline size, save it. All right, let's do this, save it. So here, this particular part here in this code, the container type inline size here act as the star of the show. Okay, so here what does this does, how this is the star of the show. So here it establishes dot content and dot sidebar as the query container. Here it establishes that these are the query container. Okay, so traditionally when we use the media queries, we only cared about the whole size of the screen, that is the whole viewport size. Okay, by this property we are telling the browser that I want the child of this particular element to be able to style based on the size of this specific element. Okay, based on the size of this particular element that we have, I want my child to be styled accordingly. Okay, not with respect to the size of the screen, but with respect to this particular element. Okay, here we have added a property that is inline size. This is a very logical property. In English, the inline is like left to right. Okay, so the inline size right here as per the standard, which essentially means the width. Okay, inline, which with inline we calculate the width. So here in this particular case we are typically using the property inline size rather than the only size. Okay, because by using inline size we are tracking two things. simultaneously, that is the width and the height. Okay, we are tracking two things, that is the width and the height. So why we are doing this, why we are not tracking the height differently? Because like in other context, because height tracking causes very expensive kind of calculation for the layout, and it also create performance issues and all stuff. So that's why we are using this. The container type has three mode. One is the normal mode, and one is the inline size mode, and one is the size mode. So let me write content type. Okay, one is the default. Okay, that sorry, one is the normal mode, which is the default mode. One is the content type inline size. One is content type size. Okay, these are the three modes that we have right here. Let's understand one by one. Here we are using inline size. Okay, let's first start with the default state. In the default, what we are doing, what it basically tracks, just what exactly, what kind of tracking we can do. It it tracks nothing regardless the dimensions. Like the element is technically a container. Okay, here if you write content type normal, the element is technically a container, but you cannot query its width, height. Okay, so something like this, like how you do container. Okay, and the query, if you write width greater than 500, okay, pixel, in this particular case it won't work. Okay, won't work. So here then where we will be using it, some of the use case is style query. Okay, so basically container is basically used for the style query. Okay, you do the query for the style, sorry for the typos, and here you can put like theme, dark mode and all stuff. Okay, so this is basically used for the style query. Okay, and then the next part is the inline size. Okay, let's move to the next part, that is the inline size. Okay, and what it is, so basically it basically tracks the logical width. Okay, it tracks the logical width, the inline size, which here we are tracking the width of the main size, width of the sidebar in this particular project. It allows you to style the child based on how wide is the container. According to the width of the parent container, the child styling will be applied. Okay, so that's why we will be using one of the most this is one of the most prominent use case for the responsive design. Okay, the website is built on block layout, and things what happens is are naturally expanded vertically. Okay, so by only tracking the width, the browser doesn't have to worry if the child is making the container very taller. It prevents the there is a term that is called as the layout loop. Okay, it prevents that layout looping kind of structure. Okay, and then is the content type size. Okay, here in the inline size we are tracking the only the width of the parent, but here if you write content type size, here we are doing the track of both the height and width. Okay, you can do the styling of the child based of the height of the container and the width of the container. Okay, accordingly you can track two of the things. Okay, and so this is about content type. Previously, we have used the media queries. Here the browser asks, is the entire browser window is wider than the 30 rem? Okay, previously that we have used. But here what we can do is, let's now move to the newer way. What we can do is add container. Okay, and here we are asking if the parent element, the specific box right here, uh, where the component lives, is wider than Let's say here we'll ask about 20 rem. If it is wider than 20 or 30 rem, then we'll proceed. Okay, so container, then we'll have the width, okay, greater than 20 rem. Okay, then we'll move to the code. So it tells the browser to look up the HTML tree. Okay, it looks to the nearest ancestor element. Okay, it looks to the nearest ancestor element that has the container type defined. Okay, defined is something like this. How it is defined: the container type defined if the ancestor, okay, is wider than 20 rem, that is 320 pixels. Okay, then the styles what we will be writing here, that applies. If the ancestor is narrow like the sidebar, okay, if the ancestor is narrow like the sidebar, then we will ignore the styling property. So this is what we are doing right here. If the ancestor is wider than 320 pixel, then the side applies. So here dot post, sorry, post thumbnails. Okay, in the post thumbnails, what we'll be doing, we'll set the display type flex, okay, and set the gap as 1. So this is the, here we are what we are doing is, in this particular line of code, we are doing a switching from the stacked layout one below the other to the row kind of layout. If uh, if we have if the browser is below 20, if the container is below 20 rem, the browser ignores this particular block. Okay, if it is over 20 rem, the browser applies the flex box to the post thumbnail. Okay, so that the thumbnail appears side by side. Okay, for the bigger, for the main container. Okay, then what we'll do, then we'll add one more equalizer, that is the thumbnail, and set it flex value to 1. So here equally application, okay, with the width, equal width and all distribution we are doing. Okay, okay, now one more thing, as per the calculation, let's keep it to 30 for now. Save it, and let's see if the design is working or not. Okay, yes, you can see how it has become responsive right now. You can see the design for the width greater than 30 rem. You can see how everything is aligned horizontally, and for less than 30 rem in the sidebar, how everything is aligned perfectly vertically, and how in the main content area it is aligned horizontally. So you can see, and again when the size becomes smaller, it adjusts it accordingly. So now this has become quite responsive, right? In addition to the container type, there is a specific thing that we can use to target a specific content. For example, let's do one more thing. Here in this particular case, dot content, container name, let's give it as only content, and let's add container type to, let's make it inline size. Here we are giving a identity to a specific container. We are giving a content name as content. This arc as an identity. Content is the name right here, as the identity right here for a specific container. Here, this is very crucial when we have a nested container, one container inside the other. If you have a container inside one after the other, they they allow or they tell the browser which container you want to measure and all the stuff. Okay, so the type, as we have discussed before, the inline type, this used to track the width. This allows us to apply the specific rule to the content area according and without hampering the sidebar and all stuff. This also have a shorthand version which declares both the container name and the container type in a shorthand version. So for that we need container content inline size. So if you use the shorthand version, you need to mention both the name and the type in the same order. You cannot skip any of the values. Similarly, for the sidebar also can have the containment context with the unique name like dot sidebar for the sidebar, which let's add the shorthand sidebar and give the name as the sidebar, and the type is inline size because we are working on the width. Now what we can do is we can write the container query targeting to a specific block. Like here we can write for the content, then we can write for the sidebar, something like this, add container, then for the content part. Now let's write the targeted code for the post part, post thumbnails. Let's for the post thumbnail we can do, let's add a different background color for our understanding. We can use this color, or you can try it out with, let's keep it this, and padding, let's keep it 1 rem. We'll keep a different color for the post thumbnail, then dot thumbnail will have the margin block end. Okay, we'll explain this. We'll set it to 0. Okay. Okay, before going to the explanation of this particular part, here I have a typo issues. Let me fix this. In this container query, we are targeting the content block. If the width is greater than 40 rem, then the background color is applied to the thumbnails, and we have a padding 1 rem. Here we are removed from each of the thumbnail block, we are removing the bottom margin. Okay, so let's see, save it and see if it is working. Okay, when it is greater than 40 rem, you can see right here the switch, you can see the switch how it is happening. We are getting a background color. Okay, for the thumbnail section is having a background color, the bottom margin is getting removed. Okay, and then this is how it is happening right here. Here the only difference is from the previous one, the addition of the container name. And here one thing we can see that the sidebar, here we are, since we have defined for the only content, the sidebar design is not changing. There is no changes happening right here. Okay, so that's why. Let's play around a bit with the code. What will happen if we remove the content? Will it work or it will not work? Let's see. Let's have a quick guess when before I switch. Okay, it will work, but it will work here, right here in this particular case, but there is a issue with the design kind of, here we'll have a issue is logical issues. What will happen is, in this particular case, if the if the sidebar becomes, here we have a shorter, since the screen size is smaller, we have a shorter sidebar. Okay, if the sidebar becomes greater than 40 rem, in the sidebar also you will see this kind of background. Okay, here what happens is, if we keep like the name, the content, the sidebar code remains safe. Okay, we do not apply any kind of design out there. But if we remove that, there is a risk the sidebar, since the sidebar is the nearest container, if the width becomes greater than 40 rem, it will also turn green. Okay, so that a design issue what will happen. But here in this particular case, we do not want to apply this to both the what you can say is the sidebar, both to the sidebar and the content. We want it to be applied specifically to the content. So that's the only reason why we need to mention content right here. And here, one of the major thing that we can do is similar to the uh, media queries. We can apply one or we can use one or more uh, combine one or more queries using the logical operators like and on all stuff. Like here, what we can do is we can use and, then width should be width. Let's do one more thing is, sorry, and width is less than 60 rem. So in this uh, query, we are checking if the container width is more than 40 rem and less than 60 rem. Now, one more thing we can do is we can do a further simplification of this particular code. Okay, so how we can do that? By reducing to this width. Here we can do as right 40 rem less than width less than 60 rem. And let's test if the front end is responding. Okay, here, all right, the front end is perfectly responding right here. Let's move to the code. All right, let's move to the another aspect of the container queries. Now let me show you something really cool that is still experimental but yet incredibly powerful. That is a style query. It doesn't let you query just the size of the container but also the size. So to do it, let's move to the code base. For example, we can query whether a border or a background is applied to the parent container and then style the child container accordingly. This feature only work with some of the limited browser and also works with only CSS custom properties. Since this works on custom CSS custom properties, let's store a background color here with BG color, then give it a colors right here. Then what we can do is to imply and apply. Then let me comment this background color where here the result will be the same. The only thing that we have changed is we have replaced the hard-coded color value with a CSS variable. Now one thing we can do is from here we can write a style query to check whether a particular styling is applied or not. The syntax is very similar, only here we need to apply the style function and the query conditions. Query condition bg if the background color is applied to the parent. Okay, that is this. Okay, we'll check, then we'll do to the thumbnail, we'll set a border. So if we have a background color in the thumbnail, to create a distinct kind of layout, we'll add a border to it of 1 pixel solid, sorry, and let the color be a darker shade of this, so something will go like this. So here, if the parent has a specific background color, okay, if the parent has a specific background color, then the child's border will be this. So let's save it and test it. Okay, it is not working. Just let me check the code. Okay, here we have an issue. Save it. Now it should work. Okay, still not working. Let me check again with the code. Okay, the code is alright. We do not have any issues right here in the code. But thing is, this is not compatible in the Firefox as of late 2024 or 2025 builds. Okay, so that's why in the Firefox you won't see the border right here. Okay, so because of the incompatibility issues. But if we run that same code on the Edge, or if you run that same code on the newer version of the like a Chrome triple one version or Edge browser, Chrome based browser, then you will able to see this. So that's why if we it is not compatible with the Firefox, that's why it is not visible right here. But the code which we have written is all right. Okay, and then what we can do is you can just see the compatibility and all stuff. You can check it for different screen size and all the stuff. Okay, now it is working as per the given range. Now let's write a media query. So in this media query, what we can do is if the width of the screen is or the viewport is greater than 45 rem or 50 rem, we can set. And if it is more than that, what we can do is we can do a certain change to the uh, sidebar. We can do apply some styling to this by color changing the color of the box or changing the background color, something like this. Let's try it out. For that, let's write the media query right here, add media, and here we'll check if the width is greater than, let's skip it, 40 rem. Then we'll to the sidebar. Okay, to the sidebar we'll create a variable pg color and give it a color code, hexadecimal color code that we have applied to the background. Then let's apply the background color, and here where we will see pg color, save it. Then we'll apply a border. Let's not change the background color of the sidebar. What we can do, one more thing is, okay, let's do that for now, and let's add a border of 1 pixel and keep it solid. And text code, let's keep a lighter tone to it, something like 72772 is okay. This is a darker, let's go to a lighter shade, something like this. Okay, then save it. Alright, now let's check if it is working or not. Okay, yes, you can see now the sidebar is changed. Okay, it has changed and the styling is applied to the sidebar for the given condition. If it is greater than, when it is greater than 45 rem, now we can see the, if the width is greater than 45 rem, then the sidebar color is applied. All right, so this part is done. Now let's the base, set a base of the condition for the style to the background color, like container style, and we will set this to bg color, and this is hash 778873. If it matches, then we'll set the thumbnail, change the thumbnail background color to let be this color. Save it. Here, okay, we have a typo issue. Save it and let's check it. Yep. Now this condition is working perfectly. So here we have set is we have added a query. If the bg color is this, then change the thumbnail color to this. We have added a base query with a style. So here it is successfully applied. Alright, so the base query matches the condition and the background color is changed. Alright, it is also possible to nest a container queries. So the container queries can be nested. So how? Let's see example. So add container width. If the following condition applies to be true, then and the base background color matches, then only this style will be applied, or else it will not be applied. Save it. Then you can see here the container width is less than 30 rem. So in the sidebar you can see the background color is the neon background color is applied, but here it is not that case, so that's why it is not applied here. So this is how we can nest and do the styling to the in our code. All right, so now let's move to the next part. Container queries have their own set of units, which is similar to viewport width, VW, and the viewport height, that is VH. So let's take an example, and in this particular example, we'll take a combination of the fluid typography and the container query units. All right, so let's jump into the example. All right, for this code, we will apply the, let's write it right here. We'll take a paragraph. For this, we'll apply a font size. Here we are coming up with a new functions, that is the clamp function, clamp. And in the clamp function, we will be taking three parameters. One is the minimum, one is the preferred, and one is the maximum. So for the minimum, 1 rem, and then for the preferred we will be using 1 rem, and here I will add plus, then 1 point, let's make it 1.25 rem, then we will be using 2 rem. So here we are taking three parameters right here for the fluid typography. So the first is 1 rem, that is the floor value with which you can say no matter how small the container gets, it will never shrink less than 1 rem. Okay, it is like the preserved readability unit. Okay, something like that you can take. Next is the last one is 2 rem, that is the ceiling value. No, so here no matter how the container size increase, the text should be 2 rem. Okay, so it prevents like larger odd looking text so stuff. So here that's why it is 2 rem. The middle one, what is called as the preferred one, or here we have the formula 1 rem plus 1.25. Let's change it, not skip it rem, let's skip it to cqw. All right, so this is a unit. So as long as you are between the floor and the what you have ceiling, that is the one rem and two rem. So here the screen size is calculated dynamically using maths. So here what we can do is, here this is a new unit what we will be reading about, container query width. Okay, so you know one viewport is 1% of the screen width. So similarly one CQW is 1% of the container query width, container width. Okay, one CQW is 1% of the container width. All right, so similarly 1.25 is 1.25% of the container query width. So we have other units also, like CQW, we have CQH and other stuff. Okay, so why CQW? Okay, why CQW is taking a superior form right here. So if we use VW, that is the viewport width, the text would the text size would be based on the monitor size. Okay, like on a desktop, there is a card in the narrow sidebar, so the text will be very, sidebar would have a huge text because the screen size is wide on a desktop. But with CQW, the text knows that the sidebar is a narrow sidebar. This is a narrow sidebar, so let's stay it small. Let's make it dynamic according to the formula. So if you move the same card to the main content area, the main content area, the container size is big, so the text will grow. So we have a fluid kind of typography uh, which changes according to the container size. Okay, so here why we do not write just, many of you might have questioned why, like this in the floor and the ceiling we have written 1 rem 2 rem, why not 5 CQW, or by only 5 we do not write CQW unit, 5 we are adding 1 rem. Okay, so this is called as a base. So here the technique what we are using is the base plus growth. Okay, if you just use CQW, the text will do shrink aggressively. Okay, according to the container size. Okay, and here if you take, like, let's say 5 CQW, it is only 10 pixel, which is very small to read. Okay, the CQW is very small to read. So and the shrinking things happen very aggressively, which is a which create very bad impact on readability and all stuff. So here by adding a base to it, that is the 1 rem, we ensures that the text starts at a readable unit, the default font size, that is 16 pixel. So that's why we are adding 1 rem to it. So that's the main logic behind it. So let's see, and this text is right now will become much more fluid and change according dynamically according to the size and all stuff. Okay, so that's the main idea of using the fluid typography content, you by using by the implementation of the query length units. In this tutorial, we have a clear understanding about the issue with the media queries, how they respond to the how wide the browser is, and we also learned about the difference between the media queries and the container queries. The container queries are the content aware. They ask how wide the container is, and which means the content, the all the components can adapt to its own space, not with how entire the viewport size is. Okay, it will adjust if main content size is wider. It adjusts accordingly. If it becomes narrower, like the style bar, it will adjust accordingly. It becomes very dynamic in nature. The container, we use the container name. Okay, with the add container name for the precision. Okay, we have also read about the syntax readability. We have learned about the range. Also we have learned about the container query units in this particular tutorial. Now let's move to the assignment part. So what assignment, as an assignment, what you can do is you can build multiple product cards in a particular page. Okay, you can create product card components with a product image, product title, a short description, and a add to cart button. So you can use this for the same markup, HTML markup for all the cards. Okay, make it diagonal like the all the make the card product card as a component, and use the same markup for all the card. Okay, place the card in at least two different kind of container. Like one is in the main container, okay, that is the main grid, and put some product card in the sidebar. Okay, so here you can use container queries to create a layout, three different layouts. One, you can keep a layout with less than 20 rem. One, keep a layout with, for a little bit medium moderate size layout with 20 to 30 rem, and keep the large layout that is greater than 30 rem. So create three layouts and try to implement card right there. Okay, and this is and see how dynamically each product card is changing according to different container size. Okay, on top of to this assignment, what you can do is you can add container query unit to make the font size scale according to the container. For the small it will become small, for the large it will become large. Okay, use style queries to change the button color according to all the different CSS custom properties. Okay, add a, you can also add hover effect on different container size to create a customized effect and the fill. So this is what you can take this as assignment for. All right, so for now this is the assignment. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought that container queries represent a fundamental shift on how we think about the responsive design. So this is one of the future of CSS. Master it and you will be ahead in your curve. So thank you for joining in. We'll see you in the next session.